Hello everyone, today's video is a little bit different than my normal videos, but I have many hobbies and one of them is sewing. I'm not the greatest at it, but I am learning. And if you saw my last video, you would have seen the green cloak that I made. I'll put a video of that in here. I'm also starting to make cloaks. I made this one for myself and I'm gonna be starting to do commissions on these. Since I made that one, I was very interested in making more. And since I now know how to do it because I made that first one, I'm gonna be showing you today how to make your own. Now I am not an expert, so if I say something a little stupid or if it kind of doesn't make sense, just leave a comment and I will clarify that for you. But I'm gonna do my best to explain and show everything that I'm doing. So first off, for fabric, I got this lovely blue silk from Hobby Lobby and this plain blue from Joann's. You do not have to use two different fabrics for yours. You can do double layered of the same fabric or you can just do one layer. It does not need to be double layered. And I did buy a pattern for this. This is Simplicity number 8721. And it's a very easy pattern, so if you want to just go pick that one up, I think it was like $10 maybe from Joann's. And so yeah, I'm just gonna get started.
Hello, it's me on voiceover mode. The first step is to struggle a great deal with getting your fabric flat. The best way to do this is to use the most open area you can possibly find. I'm going to lay these two fabrics together with the wrong sides together. And I'm placing my pattern down and starting to cut. The easiest thing about this pattern is that it doesn't matter if you have it right side up or not. You can place them in any way you'd like because you're going to end up with two of the same piece no matter what. So I'm cutting this out very carefully, and as you can see here on the front piece, I'm actually going to leave about an inch or two extra on the front. I just did this because the first time I made the cloak, I was a bit unhappy with the shortness of the neckline, so I'm just cutting an extra 2 inches here. Now I'm going to do the whole thing over again for a second time. Since I'm doing this double layered, I have to do this twice. I didn't want to layer all four and cut them all at once because I was concerned about slipping since I used silky satiny fabric. This time I'm only doing the front and back piece again. I am not cutting out the hood a second time because I only need 2 layers for that one. Here I'm just going to mark about 5 inches from the bottom to make it a little bit shorter, and since I have 2 layers, I was actually able to hem the bottom of all of my pieces beforehand so that I could get an invisible stitch along the whole thing, so that's what I'm doing here. I also did that on the front hem of where the front of the cloak meets. I didn't record that for some reason, sorry. But as you can see here, I've got the right sides together so that I can create this invisible stitch. I'm trimming away the excess now, and then I'm going to press it just to make everything lay flat and perfect. You want to press instead of iron so you don't get any marks or snags. And hello, here's me. This is another day. I'm actually using that piece that I just was showing you as a template to mark all of my other pieces 5 inches shorter. This is just an easier way to do that, and I did that with the other front piece and with the 2 back pieces to make sure they were all the same. Now I'm just going to sew all of those lines very carefully. Here I'm going to flip the piece back around so that the wrong sides are together and you can see the invisible hem that I've created. This is just a way to create a hem without seeing the stitch line all the way across the bottom. As you can see here, it's nice and flat and even. and I'm going to trim that away so that when I press it, it's all perfect. Now I'm going to press it. Once again, you don't want to iron because you don't want to create snags or any weird marks. And I pressed all of my pieces, which was quite time consuming, but very necessary. So now that I have everything hemmed, I can start putting the pieces together. So here is me trying to line up one of the front pieces with one of the back pieces. So now I have all 4 pieces sandwiched together, right side against right side. And I'm just gonna trim away all of the unevenness. No matter how hard you try to cut out your pattern pieces perfectly, they always end up a little bit different. So I'm just gonna trim that all away so that all 4 layers are perfectly even. And when I stitch, I get all 4 layers in the stitch. Now I'm going to start to sew all 4 of these pieces together, and since I already hemmed the bottom, I wanted to make sure that these pieces were going to line up perfectly, so I just did a little stitch right there so I could open it up and see, and there you go, it looks perfect. So I'm going to flip it all around and start to sew across the whole thing. So here's moment of truth number 1. I'm going to open up the piece and see if it worked how I wanted it to. Looks pretty good, and I'm going to put it on like you would if it were whole. And there you go. Looks pretty good, and as you can see, I'm pleased. Looks good indeed. Great job. So here's me doing the same thing all over again to the other front and back piece. I'm going to save you from watching that footage again because I did the exact same thing, and here's me just sewing them together very carefully. Moment of truth number 2. I'm opening the piece up again, doing the same thing like I did last time. And as you can see, struggling here, and yep, looks good. Here's where I started to experience a little bit of stress because I realized in hindsight I should have sewed the 2 back pieces together first, but I didn't, so I had a bit of a hard time matching up the back pieces, but I did it, and here's me sewing that very carefully. I had a hard time with this just because there was so much fabric already attached to the piece, and there was a lot of pulling, but the best way to handle this situation is just to go slow. And yes, I'm nervous doing this. Moment of truth number 3, opening it all up, and what do you know? Oop, almost fell. And look at that. Looks pretty good, eh? Last step, kinda, is to do the hood, so I'm just gonna follow exactly like this picture is showing here. I don't entirely know how to explain that, so just look at the picture. And I'm gonna do that to my 2 pieces. I decided to go with both pieces silk, and you'll see later why. But so the pattern didn't entirely explain this part well, so I'm just gonna kind of try to show you how I did that. So I'm gonna flip this piece inside out and then fold it so that it creates 2 little weird triangles like that. And then this is hard to explain, but I just sort of flipped the one triangle into the other triangle. This makes it so that it sort of is lining itself and you don't see any of the wrong side at all, and it creates this lovely little hood. Now I'm going to press the seams of the hood open This just makes it so that the seam looks really nice and flat, as opposed to the other side that I didn't press. I'm showing you the difference here. Now the hood needs to be gathered right across the neckline, which is where I'm pointing. So I'm gonna hand stitch 2 lines right across the neckline. There isn't any precision required for this, so I just sort of used the needle's length to measure in between stitches, and just did that once across the whole thing, and then maybe less than 1/4 of an inch above that line, I did another one. I then gathered the hood about 16 inches, which was the length of the neckline of my cloak, and very carefully stitched the two together. This can be hard with gathering just because it ends up being so many layers, but just go slow and take your time and be as careful as you can. This is the final moment of truth. I'm gonna put the whole thing on. Now, I am very happy with how this is looking, but at this point I had been sewing for many hours, so I do not appear very pleased here, but I certainly was. I'm very happy with how it's turning out, and I think it looks great. I also added some finishing touches by putting some bias tape around the raw edges of the hood. This is what I used, and I also hand stitched a little clasp. Here is a fun video of me frolicking in the woods with my new cloak. This piece is available on my Depop. Check out the link in my description, and if you want this one or one like it, just send me a message. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful for you, maybe. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment and like this video or subscribe if you would like, or both. Thank you and goodbye.